Okay, I'm not waiting on anything. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the
Hey,
show. Once again, once again, Dana is giving me a hard time about start the show. It's 6 o'clock. Start
it's
the show.
6:01, Steve.
Hi, everybody. Oh God,
You're
and that
coming in.
radical bacon's jumping
See,
on my ass in the chat too. Did Steve fall asleep? No.
Steve wasn't paying attention.
That's partially true.
Mm-hmm.
So how are
How
you?
was how was your really good? Everything considered, really good. I was really happy with how many of my students' families I actually got to talk to today.
Right, because you
Because that
did
was that
parent
was one of my
calls.
goals.
Yeah.
Hello, 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 hello. Hello, hello, hello. Although that's actually about a guy who's cheating on his girlfriend, so maybe not that, but it's cute. The song's got a nice beat to it. Anyway,
Don't
um,
read too much into it. Just
yeah, it's just a nice little song. How's my little chickie in the New York snow? So that was definitely a plus. Shot a video today. Did not write a script for that sucker, and I think it turned out pretty good. I don't know.
I'm about halfway through fixing the audio in it, and so far so good. I mean, it seems good to me. I haven't sat down and watched it all the way through from beginning to end yet, but I've been taking it sort of
I am
piecemeal
as
as I.
scintillating as ever. I'm certain.
Of course, of course.
Oh, and I got comments. For me, I got quite a few comments on my most recent video, the pronouns one, which I'm very pleased about. Some nice discussion there. I'm very curious about this.
What did I have the new America's ass?
Yeah. Well, what?
Because I did a gag in this week's Trek Actually video, the comment response video. I reprised my beloved classic comedy bit where I read a comment from someone who complains about how I have my politics in my videos too much. That it's a bit that everybody loves, so I try to roll it out and dust it off as much as possible. And
Obviously.
and so this time because the guy said, I'm just guessing it was a guy, just um, the guy said something like, uh,
Entitlement from a straight white male. What will the world come up with
I
next?
know it's a shot in the dark, but I'm fairly confident I'm onto something there. But he said something like, I like it when you talk about Star Trek, but you should keep your woke politics out of your videos. So I said, well, I have a counter proposal. Instead of keeping my politics out of my videos, why don't you kiss my whole ass? And then I turned around in my chair
Uh
and
huh.
I showed him what he could kiss.
Oh. Were you
With
wearing the new jeans, the ones that were tighter?
I can't remember.
Oh, missed opportunity. Well,
I
maybe
can't
I don't
remember.
know.
It's
Um,
whichever ones I was wearing on. I guess when did I shoot that? Monday, I guess, is when I shot it. So whichever ones I was wearing.
okay.
Anyway, yeah. You
I've
can
slept
well
since then, Steve. I
you can
forget
go look.
things.
You can go look on.
I'll have to go look
Go
about
watch the
about when's
video.
when's the ass part.
I'll have
I'll just
I'll have to jump. I'll have to look and see. I can't remember specifically.
because I mean that's the part that I want to jump to,
You just want to skip right to the ass part.
right to the ass.
It's
That
probably
ass.
I think that ass. I think it's probably been
Wait.
linked.
We're not side by side, are we?
No,
Okay, so I have to talk for a little bit, and then I can go. Ass. Not
nice
not just here, but here. You got to have the round ends.
handfuls, two handfuls. Um,
Woohoo!
yeah. So yeah,
I'm sorry, Steve. I shouldn't laugh at your ass.
you shouldn't. You really, it's nothing to laugh at.
Oh, it's not nothing. It's
It's
something.
I.
This is what the whole show is going to be like, isn't it?
Ah. But yeah, so that was I would never dare to compare myself to the ass of Steve Rogers as portrayed by Chris Evans. That would be arrogant presumption.
Sacrilegious.
Yes, exactly. because that is truly America's ass. But you know,
Well, I mean, you know that when I say dad ass, I'm not talking about Captain America. I mean, you refer to America's ass, and that's Captain America. But
indeed.
dad ass is Richard Grayson.
Oh,
The
indeed.
one,
The great
the
ass in
only,
comic books. Yes,
the, like, the legendary ass.
the ass of asses among superheroes for sure. Absolutely, because it's
And he
kind
ain't
of
even got superpowers most of the
no,
time.
because it's kind of his thing.
That's
You
his
know,
superpower.
I mean,
Like, mine's
well,
forgetting things. His is dad
well,
ass.
and it's like it's kind of it's you can sort of tell like how big of a comic book fan someone is beyond the movies because like that's a really great gag in the Avengers, you know, when Steve is looking at himself and he's like, yeah, wow, that is America's ass. Like that's a nice gag, but everybody who's like a big comic fan knows that Captain America, like having a nice ass isn't Captain America's thing.
Mhm.
Like that's Nightwing's thing.
Obviously.
So, you know.
See, that's what we need. That is the true Marvel versus DC pair
Yeah,
up.
and ass off. Yeah, and radical bacon. Grayson doesn't skip leg day. Apparently not.
Do them squats,
He's doing them
boyo.
squats. Yet another
So,
yet another area where I think we can say that the live action Titan series is failing is I mean
alas.
I mean the guy who plays Nightwing is a good looking guy and in a better show I think he'd be a terrific Nightwing and Dick Grayson but like
Mhm.
I mean I don't know if I don't even know what that thing looks like. There's been no attention paid to it at all. So like I can't.
It's clearly, this is one case where they changed it and now it sucks. Definitely applies. You know, it's not being true to the comics.
Why did you change the fact that he has an amazing ass? It's central
You
to
might
the. It's
actually have one, but you're not giving it the attention that it needs, that it deserves.
I need finger stripes. And I need at least one shot of the dude's ass just so I can see, just so I can
Per
judge.
episode.
Per episode.
At least.
And have like other characters making like a deliberate thing out of it, like, you know, dropping things. I mean, like, oh, hey, could you get that for me?
Son. Wait, you have pencils there on your desk. I know.
I want that pencil.
But I want that one. It's the bend and snap. We're putting that in Nightwing Hates LA.
Oh,
the bend and snap.
The bend and snap.
Bend and snap.
So yeah.
This was our second day of resituating and planning for hybrid schedule, which will start on Monday. Right. And the way it's going to be interesting because each day will have 4 live sessions and half the students will be in person and half the students will be from home. Mm-hmm. Maybe.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Well,
in theory.
No more than half the students will be in person. They've all got Chromebooks, so it's entirely possible that some of the students who are supposed to be there in person will show up from home. So maybe. We're not really sure about this. And then, so that's Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday, we'll have the other half of the alphabet. It'll switch out for who's in person, who's home. But we're continuing with education, you know, so everybody has some days when they're there in person and everybody has some days when they're at home, unless they're quarantined, in which case they're just home, period. And then on Friday, we do not have live instruction. Nobody is at the school, but we are supposed to provide instruction in the form of practice, things, you know, videos, worksheets, reading materials, things like that, that they can do on their own without teacher assistance. We're not to be in the building. And then Monday is Labor Day. So that'll be our day off for that week. And then we'll be in Tuesday, Wednesday will be the first half of the alphabet. Thursday, Friday will be the second half of the alphabet. But Monday is actually a day off, so they don't have any instruction for Monday. And then the following week, it's Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday is the work independently day, and then Thursday, Friday. So it's a different work independently day every week.
Oh, wow.
And then like, so I'm just like, okay, let's see how this goes.
Why are they doing it like that?
My guess, and I don't know, my guess is so that they can do deep cleaning over the weekend, like over the long, because they have we have Labor Day off, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the Friday before it, they're also having, since we've split it up evenly, the Friday before it, they're having off. And then the Wednesday after it, they're having off to do another, not quite as deep clean. That's my guess. Do I know? No, I don't.
Well, if that is the reason, at least that's a good reason.
Yes. It just, I'm just trying not to think about it too much and just be gentle with them and, focus on where they're at and how I can help them develop their skills more and, just support and encourage them. That's a big part of it,
Yeah.
So Radical Bacon, no, I will not fight you on that.
Yeah.
I live in a rural area.
I agree with that too.
We need internet so much.
I agree with that
one
too.
One of the parents I called said, son of a biscuit, I need to email, here we go. Hang on. Who was that? That was the last one. So that was internet. I need to email.
Look at this. She never stops working, folks.
What
a teacher.
I told them that I would get in touch with administration and see what we could do to help them, get access. Because they said there was a storm earlier this week and, they think it affected their internet in the area because they're having trouble with that. I said, that's fine. We'll do what we can. I will get you as much information as I can about that. And I also need to negative test. Need to include that in the email. Because I told them that I would send them an email reminding them, because I called them and I'm like, hi, this is Mrs. Cole, and I just want to touch base with you because we're going into hybrid next week. And they immediately started, oh yeah, my son got a COVID test and we just got the results and it came back negative. I'm like, okay, so you need to tell somebody about that, but that somebody is not me. I can't do anything about that. I can't log into that system. Right. And I'm up at the office because we don't have phones in our room anymore. And I have a new phone and Google Voice was acting up. So I'm just like, I'm supposed to call parents. So I was like, I need help. And they're like, you can use this office. So they gave me, I think one of the counselor's offices, and they were out dealing with schedules or helping students get registered or get their Chromebooks or whatever. Anyway, so I had a phone that I was using and I'm like, so this is a phone I have not used before. So I'm just going to set the receiver down on the desk and go get somebody. I'm like, I don't know how to do
I don't know how to put people on hold.
I don't know how to put you on hold. I don't want to risk hanging up on you. So I was like, I went over and I'm like, so there's a parent on the phone. I was just calling them to talk about, remind them hybrid and, Chromebooks and stuff like that. And they said something about a negative test and I can't do anything about it, but I don't know how to transfer it to your phone. And they looked at me and they're like, you're so smart. It's adorable. Like, I could learn, but you're right here and it's like the next room. But anyway, so they came over and answered and they told them just bring the negative test with you when you come. So, and I said, I'll put that in an email to you. And I did all my emails and, sent my email out about here's where the class website is, da-da-da. And then I'm like, I'm going home. And now I'm just like, oh, and I said I was going to do that thing. And I didn't do the thing that I said I would do.
And now it's written on your hand.
And now it's written on my hand, along with dragons and phone call, which are faded because I've washed my hands a couple of times. I need to set up the dragons script. Because
yeah, I was going to say dragons is for a video.
Yes, but the phone call video is done.
Huzzah.
Yay!
Well, your part of it is done. I still have to edit it.
I'm sorry, Steve.
That's okay. I'm going to work on it tomorrow. I think after we get through with our show here, I'm going to be off for the rest of the night because wrestling's tonight. Now it's not until 10, so I have some free time in between this and
Holy
that. But
smokes, that's how. Well, I guess wrestling is exciting enough to help you stay awake.
indeed, and it's
'Cause
only
that's late.
and it's only well, and it's only an hour. Thankfully, it's not a 2-hour show. It's only an hour, so it's from 10 to
And
11 instead of.
and tomorrow is Saturday, so you're not getting up stupid early to exercise
Nope, I'm not.
like some people might.
Like some people might,
Who would do
for
such a thing?
for whatever reason, they might want to do that.
Because they have a dress that they really like that they don't actually fit into, and they want to wear the freaking dress.
Yep.
And they're incredibly vain about it. It's sitting, it's hanging right there.
Hypothetically, for example, just
asking for a friend.
Yeah.
Speaking for friends.
Just yeah, exactly. So anyway, I'm gonna have another bonus video come out because I shot
because you're just on it with the content.
I know. Because I did a Twitter thread yesterday that I don't want to say, I mean, it didn't like blow up, it didn't go viral or anything, but it got a few hundred likes and stuff.
Aww.
So, and it was my thread about,
Star Trek
and ways that I would do a Star Trek show in order to piss off the nerds, throw in little
no. Not all nerds.
No, because I'm one, and I would think it was great. But well, obviously, I think it was great.
The nerds who are stuck on themselves.
The detail obsessed, the canon preoccupied nerds who are like who need to make everything make sense, right? The people who
make it all make sense.
The people who do not respect the wisdom of the Mystery Science Theater 3000 theme song, which advises us to repeat to yourself, it's just a show. You should really just relax. So I did a thread all about that and all the little details that I would throw in,
Brandon doesn't think it's just a show, Steve.
Well, I got some bad news. I've got some, I hate to be the one to disillusion you,
Brandon.
But it is in fact just a show. It's a good show, but it is in fact just a show. But yeah,
actually several shows and a few movies.
Quite a few shows.
As well as comic books, novels.
Indeed.
A whole bunch of fanfic that you don't want your parents to know.
Oh yes. Read. Video games.
Yes, indeed.
Including a few that I have even played.
Gasp. Action figures.
Dolls. Yes, indeed. And even fanfic comics made from those very action figures.
You don't say.
Who would have thought? So yeah, that was a fun Twitter thread, and I think if I do say so myself, I came up with some pretty good stuff for that. So that's a video. I recorded that earlier, and I'll edit it probably tomorrow after I get done editing your phone call video, and have it up over the weekend. So
Sweet.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm just, and then next week is, I haven't shot it yet, but I have it written. Next week is also going to be my Superman and Lois video. So, woohoo. So yeah. Shall we talk about this book that we're reading?
Yes. So did you enjoy the first 3 chapters?
I did. By the time I got to the end, I was enjoying it. I had, I not necessarily concerns, but just there are the voice is not necessarily to my taste. It's a little too.
I really. It's Is this one of her first works?
This is her debut novel. Yeah, I know. So for people who, hopefully everybody knows the book we're reading because it's in the title of the show and we've mentioned it a bunch of times. But we're starting our look at Quicksand by Nella Larson today, and we have read the first 3 chapters, so that's what we're going to talk about. But first, just a little bit of background on the book. It is the debut novel of Nella Larson, who was one of the more sort of well-known women working during the period of the Harlem Renaissance. She was relatively well known at the time, but then she was kind of forgotten in for a few decades. Like her books went out of print in the 30s and weren't really rediscovered until the 70s. So she had a period where she was forgotten by a lot of people. Um, but she was a writer of the Harlem Renaissance in the 20s and 30s. And this book, Quicksand, her first book, was published in 1928. And it is generally agreed that it is more or less autobiographical. The experience of, and because the lead character is a young woman of mixed race, and that is also Nella Larsen's experience. And the book takes place at a black school, a black only school, where Helga, the main character, is a teacher, and that was also Nella Larsen's experience. So there is a
And
lot
let's
of
be
this.
honest,
Yeah.
you can tell from the voice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And
it's such an author self-insert character.
oh, for sure. And also the thing about I guess the best way to describe the voice would be that it's like the anti Hemingway. Like, we talk a lot about how, oh, Ernest Hemingway, when he started writing in those short, like punches of sentences, and it's, very stripped down and simple and clear, and and it was so influential, and it was, but obviously it didn't influence everybody, because that
But
is
yeah, but no,
totally not
because there
how Nella
are
Larsen is writing.
no. I mean, this is nothing like Pride and Prejudice.
Oh no, yeah, you're right.
It's not. Yeah, it's not. But it's also just very lush.
Yes.
And striking contrasts, and it's just. Have you? I think Moulin Rouge is on our list. I don't think you've seen it.
I've not seen it. No, but yes, it is on our to watch list. Yes,
it's that movie. It has nothing to do with that movie, but it's the feel
that style.
Of that movie.
Yeah.
It's very Baz Luhrmann-y.
Yes.
Baz Luhrmann would love this thing. He would love to adapt this.
It's oh my god, he would love to just have people reading it out loud. Yeah,
in costume with like a kick line behind them.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, it's I mean, if
can I read some of it?
Please. Yes, give everybody, for those of you who have not been reading along with us, who didn't read the first 3 chapters, just to give you a taste.
I'm on page 3, you guys.
Okay, just a taste of what the voice is like.
Yes. She wished it were vacation so that she might get away for a time. No, forever, she said aloud. The minutes gathered into hours, but still she sat motionless, a disdainful smile or an angry frown passing now and then across her face. Somewhere in the room, a little clock ticked time away. Somewhere outside, a whippoorwill wailed. Evening died. A sweet smell of early southern flowers rushed in on a newly risen breeze, which suddenly parted the thin silk curtains at the opened windows. A slender, frail glass vase fell from the sill with a tingling crash, but Helga Crane did not shift her position. And the night grew cooler and older. I mean, that's
what we're dealing with.
It's not all those long sentences. I mean, evening died.
Yeah.
I mean, so there is the variety of sentence lengths, but I mean, it's all that very vivid purpley prose. It's so melodramatic. As somebody who reads and writes fanfic, I'm just like, oh, it feels like it's not even fanfic, but it has that feel of just like something so intense. I'm just like, oh, you just seem so young to me.
Yeah, I agree.
Like as a writer and a person, I'm just like, you just seem so little. Bless your little heart.
Yeah.
But it's not like it's written by a 12-year-old or anything.
No, it's sophisticated. I mean, it's
it's got the intensity of My Immortal without being just utterly painful to read. And it's also not nearly, I mean, as, well, I mean, it's not fanfic. and it's not, there's no crossover. But yeah, um, let's see. She's, she's not happy where she is, despite the fact that she's at a very prestigious school.
Yes.
And but that's part of it. She feels constrained, and that's again why I was thinking of the Moulin Rouge. They were not just artists, but artistes, and they were constrained by the expectations of this is what art is, and they wanted to push beyond the form and do something new, but all these people were unable to see the potential that lay before them and all around them in truth. We believe in truth and beauty and love, and just and she's so bohemian, and nobody
Yeah.
understands her. And I'm
Yes.
just like, it's every YA protagonist ever. I'm just, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it's funny how, like, especially when you read something for the first time, your brain sort of automatically makes associations.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, every time I can't hear the word whippoorwill without automatically thinking of Hank Williams, you know. And
And see, I don't.
I'm so lonesome I could cry. Can't you hear that lonesome whippoorwill? He sounds too blue to fly. You know what I mean? It's just instantly that's where I go.
I will take your word for it, because
Yeah,
that was, yeah. But
yeah,
and then of course, I'm glad you chose this, because like as a teacher, I have certain feels.
yes. I was
Another one,
wondering
I
if
don't
you.
have this one. I don't. So this is a couple of pages later. She's thinking about her students and how they likewise have to learn to fit in order to be able to be at this in order to be able to be at this school.
Yes.
Instinctively, Helga was aware that their smiling submissiveness covered many poignant heartaches and perhaps much secret contempt for their instructors. But she was powerless. In Naxos, between teacher and student, between condescending authority and smoldering resentment, the gulf was too great, and too few had tried to cross it. It couldn't be spanned by one sympathetic teacher. It was useless to offer her atom of friendship, which under the existing conditions was neither wanted nor understood. And I remember I was taking notes on paper at the time, and I was just like, I mean, that's like no, I mean, just as a teacher, like a century later, no, like you empathize with your students, but you're their teacher, not their buddy. That there is definitely a
Yeah.
line there. And the whole thing that too few had tried to cross it. Well, maybe there needs to be one more.
Right.
The whole she was powerless. I've said that about other stories, that I had no choice. Yes, you did. There's always a
You're
choice.
so.
There is always a choice. Sometimes there's a choice between multiple bad options, but there's always a choice.
You're so judgmental of characters and stories.
Which is interesting, because I have that note about her.
Yeah. Well, okay. So let's.
Let me see if I can find it.
Okay.
Oh yeah, here we are.
Okay.
I'm on page 16. I do want to go back and note some other things.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Turning from the window, her gaze wandered contemptuously over the dull attire of the women workers. And I wrote, so judgy.
Yes, they're. Yeah, well, she wants them to dress more colorfully, or she thinks that at least that they should be able to. There's
Yes.
so basically the situation that she finds herself in at the beginning of the book, that I think comes across through the little bits that you've read so far, is she's been a teacher at this school. It's a relative. It seems like a pretty exclusive, like kind of a big
Yes.
deal school for it's an African American school in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's they're sort of one of those institutions that is you get kind of a respectability politics vibe about it. You know, there it's
Yes,
intended to like
very
to
much so. They even mention, are you familiar with Ibram Kendi? Heard the name.
yes, yes, yes,
Okay, so he wrote Stamped from the Beginning, and
yes.
that was kind of the big one that put him on the map of the layperson. And in that, he talks about uplift persuasion, which is the idea that, Black people, through effort and diligence and respectability and such things like being better, can pull themselves up from the dregs of their blackness, of
Mhm.
their African Americanness. They can better themselves and become as good as white people are, which is
Yeah,
hopefully clear how problematic
yeah,
that
yeah.
is.
There was an idea. It used to be a popular idea among certain schools of thought in Black academia back in the late 19th and early 20th century, and I think they were referred to as the 10 percenters, but I could be getting that wrong. But it was the idea of there was a certain percentage of Black people who had the intellectual potential to, you know, to overcome the racism and the prejudice and the injustice that were, imposed upon Black folks in general, and that they could sort of rise higher in society, and that when such a person was discovered, in school or whatever, that it was their responsibility to go as far as they could.
Yeah, to,
And
to,
it's
to
a
carry the flag.
yeah, and it's a really, and this was not just white people that were saying it. Sounds like a white person's idea because it sounds really condescending and really racist and like, well, some of you are actually smart enough to hang with us. You know what? That's what it
Yeah.
sounds like.
Oh, no,
Um,
no, 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 no. The white people wouldn't want them hanging around with us. I
yeah,
mean,
no,
you're
no.
still not, one of us.
Yeah, it was
Oh, oh,
popularized by certain Black academics, and of course it was criticized and rejected by a lot of Black folks too, because as you were,
mhm.
I mean, it's what today it's what we would call respectability politics, or the idea of, well, there's this, it's, well, if Black people would just work harder, or if Black people would just do better in school, or if they would do more to lift themselves up, then we wouldn't have so many problems, and um and it's
Yeah.
just it's
And
you're
yeah, and Jay, as you point out, I mean,
yeah,
same thing. It's like a girl being, you're just like one of the guys.
yeah,
Not, or in fact, I think I had this. She's not like other women.
yes,
I,
yeah,
I mean, she has that too. She's not like, she's not like the other girls. And I'm just like, oh, it's
yeah.
there's that trope too.
So that's the context that she finds herself, and she's teaching at a school that seems to be promoting something like that philosophy. You know what I mean? Like we're preparing our students with an education so that they can rise above the challenges faced by our people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she is ready to leave. She's been a teacher here for a few years when we find her, and because of a little, because of the kind of attitude that is evident in in that first quote you read, or the second quote you read, but the bit about how, what's the point of offering my atom of friendship? It won't make any difference. And how much difference in the lives of these students can one teacher make? She's frustrated, she's discouraged, um, and also because she is uh, mixed race, she's biracial. Um, she feels like she is not really a part of the Black community there,
Yeah.
because the Black folks that are a member of the faculty there, and that are sort of the powerful people, not just at the school, but the powerful people within the community that surrounds the school, they are what used to be called race men or race people, where their whole idea is to uplift other Black folks, to uplift the race. That's what a race man was, um, and I guess still is, but we don't really use that term anymore. But and so she always felt like people were kind of not entirely accepting of her or not entirely trusting of her because she did not come from two black parents. She came from a white parent and a black parent. And so she feels sort of out of step and like an outcast in the black community there. And also, she's not from the area. She doesn't really have a family.
She doesn't have the connections. That's a big
Yeah,
part of it too.
yeah. So, she just wants to leave. She feels like it's time for her to go. And she in the I think in the second chapter, the first chapter is basically just about her sort of uh
Coming
you
to
know
that decision.
coming to that decision and taking stock and realizing like and in the second chapter is when someone comes to get her because she hasn't come out of her
Yeah,
room yet.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It says surely she could endure for that. No, it's halfway through March, like it's not quite spring break.
yeah.
Um, surely she could endure for that much longer conditions which she had borne for nearly 2 years. And I'm just like, oh, honey.
2 whole years.
Yeah, I mean, she's what, like 22, 23. I'm just like,
23, she says. Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, blush. I mean, it's we're middle aged, Steve. We're
Well, two,
past
yeah,
middle aged.
2 years
I'm
is
just like, she seems so young,
she does.
so young.
Yeah.
Like 2 years is like forever, and I'm just like, oh, honey, 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 honey.
Yeah.
And then yeah, this disdain for the mundane and specifically the material wealth and disdain for money. What did she want? Barring a desire for material security, gracious ways of living, a profusion of lovely clothes, and a goodly share of envious admiration. Helga Crane didn't know, couldn't tell, but there was, she knew, something else. Happiness, she supposed, whatever that might be. What exactly, she wondered, was happiness? Very positively, she wanted it. And I'm just like, this is so self-right. Like, it's the author, like, through writing this is clearly, I mean, it seems clear to me. The author's like, there has to be something more. And I'm like, you're in your early 20s,
Yeah.
bless your little heart. And I'm just like, it's so indicative of that stage of life. Um, and let's see, where was it? Where's the bit about money? First, where did I swear to God I noted it. Maybe I didn't underline that part. Apparently I didn't underline that part, but it was somewhere along there. There was something about, she was so upset about needing money to get away. And then we got to that bit that I read about her wanting like nice stuff. And I'm just like, it reminded me so much of Tuppence Beresford, the Agatha Christie character in Tommy and Tuppence, and how she's like, I really am so fond of money. She's just so open about it. She's like, I like money. I like having nice things. What's wrong with that? And like, when she and Tommy first meet up again in The Secret Adversary, she tells him, I've decided that I'm going to marry somebody rich because, the jobs are crap and I apparently don't have any rich relatives who are just going to die and leave me money. And I've helped so many old people over the street. Most of them even said, thanks. So I got to marry a rich dude. And Tommy's like, okay. It's like, that seems kind of rude, just obnoxious, but I guess if that's what you're going for,
Yeah, do what you got to do.
Do what you got to do. And then, as it goes on and he starts, developing, admiring her panache and, her courage, he starts feeling more and more resentment toward her mercenary nature. Fine. I guess, at least she was honest about it, but he's still not happy about it.
Speaking of marrying a rich man, Helga is engaged. And I
Well,
think well, sort
yes,
of.
she still is engaged, but she
Technically,
makes plans to let
she's
him
planning
know
on
that
breaking that
she's
off too, because her fiance is also a teacher at the school, and was new at the same time she was new, and they sort of bonded because of that. But then he fit into the community a lot better than she did. So it's like they don't really have that in common anymore. What brought them together was that they were both newcomers and they kind of clung to each other. But then he kind of, you know,
yeah.
melted
He
into
kind
the
of
community
fit in,
and
and
found a
she didn't.
place. Yeah. I think I found the money thing, by the way. I did a
Yeah,
search.
yeah. And Jay Grant also mentions it, and that was part of it. But there's like a couple references to it right there. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, yeah, she hated to admit that money was the most serious difficulty. Knowing full well that it was important, she nevertheless rebelled at the unalterable truth that it could influence her actions, block her desires, a sordid necessity to be grappled with. With Helga,
Yes.
it was almost a superstition to concede to money its importance magnified its power. Still, in spite of her reluctance and distaste, her financial situation would have to be faced and plans made if she were to get away from Naxos with anything like that so ardently desired. So
Nice little ardently desired. But
that's
yeah,
how it's written.
the word sorted was the one that really just drove it home for me. And I'm just like, girl, it's money. Whoop. I don't know. I am like way over in Tuppence Barrett's for his camp.
Yeah.
Money is useful. I mean, it's not the end all be all thing. I'm not even as much as Helga, where she's just like, I need to have the Oriental rug. I'm like, I'm in a room that does not have a floor. It's got a subfloor, and I got some carpets from like Home Depot. And then over here, this is the cardboard from a dishwasher box under the chair over here. Because the layered layered rugs that we put down didn't go all the way, but we didn't want to get like another one. Wouldn't have fit anyhow because it's like this weird space. So yeah, it's just a piece of cardboard. It's fine. We don't have kids to worry about them, getting splinters under their little feetsies. So it's fine. But, we got bills to pay.
Yeah.
We don't own the house outright. We still have, and even if we did, we'd still have to pay taxes and buy groceries and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Welcome I think to capitalism. It's just that's the way it is.
I think we've talked about it before, and I think the way you've described it is, and other writers have talked about this too, and I think you even talked about there's like there's a study that you've cited in the past about how money, what kind of a difference money makes in terms of people's happiness, and the idea that money doesn't exactly buy happiness, but money buys peace of mind. It buys the ability to relax. It buys the ability to slow down and focus on things that do make you
really
happy.
Do matter to you.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to work 2 or 3 jobs. You have time that you can spend with your friends and your family. You can rest.
Yes.
Those things are important.
Yes.
Money
it improves
buys
quality of life that makes it easier for you to pursue happiness. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So what else did I have there? Yeah, I was curious about the phrase "first families." Did you look into that at all?
I kind of thought she just meant like the community leaders,
okay.
like
the top families. Okay,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
sort of what
the most prominent or the most influential, or that kind of thing. That's what I assumed.
Yeah. Something intuitive. Some unanalyzed driving spirit of loyalty to the inherent racial need for gorgeousness told her that bright colors were fitting and dark complexioned people should wear yellow, green, and red, which they are not which is not appropriate.
It's not. It simply isn't done.
Yeah. And but the narrator's voice, not Helga, but is seeping in there saying that you know, I am telling you this, and it just it creeps in, and it does that pretty regularly. And then towards the end, my goodness, why, she wondered, didn't someone write a plea for color?
Yeah.
My note is someone else, I guess. Like, clearly, you know, I mean, I guess she feels about that the way I feel about Lois Lane Rice clickbait. Like,
Like,
please,
I'm not
somebody,
writing
oh
it.
my God, I have to write it
I
myself.
have to write this myself.
Oh, it's so inconvenient for me.
I
Why won't
want
somebody just write the thing that I want to read?
you need
Oh,
just it's a shame you can't pull a Bill and Ted and just like, use time travel to be like, well, I'll just write it in the future and send it back to myself. Oh, that was nice of us. Yeah. um yeah, so she decides that she because yeah, at first she's like, well, I can finish out the year, right? Because it's March, and she said, well, I can make it until like the beginning of June. I can finish out the week, and then she decides, nope, I'm
I'm
not doing
going
that.
now,
I want to go
like
like today.
today.
Yeah. So she decides she's going to go see the principal and tell him, hey, I'm out.
I'm out.
Yeah. So she goes to the principal's office, and the principal's secretary, who is this big, like, imposing guy, is there, and he seems really nice, but he's also
James
described as
Earl
like,
Jones.
yeah,
James Earl Jones. Let's
he's
be honest.
described as like a big dude, yeah, and he shows her into the principal's office. The principal is also a young person, not as young as her, obviously, but he's described as being, maybe 35. So for a person in that position, you would expect
But
he's
she
pretty
doesn't
young.
seem as, she talks about his tired eyes, and it's just really interesting to see her perspective on a 35-year-old. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
he's so old.
I mean, it's not, it doesn't come across that way, but
Yeah,
he's very obviously like a mentor figure, sort of, he has these words of wisdom. I do
yes,
also, she dresses what she thinks of as simply, but she says that the hawk eyes of dean and matrons had detected the subtle difference from their own irreproachably conventional garments. They felt the colors were queer: dark purples, royal blues, rich greens, deep reds, in soft, luxurious woolens or heavy, clinging silks. They seem to them odd, and my note is, again, she's so special. She just doesn't. She is cultured in a way they just cannot understand. I'm just like, honey, sweetie. And then this is, somebody said this earlier. Where did I see it? Yeah, Jay, when you said they're guided at Naxos not to aim too high. The proper evening wear in Naxos was afternoon attire. Know
yes,
your place. Don't get too, they were concerned that she would show up in an evening dress. Oh no, that is too fancy. We're Black folks. We don't want to be too fancy.
yeah,
And
exactly.
that's not her style.
Well, and I mean, I know part of that is, I agree with you. Part of that, I think, is her youth, but also I think it's a result of the fact that she feels like that she doesn't fit in, and she feels misunderstood
Yeah, but some of
by
that
the
is
people
like
around
is being
her.
23.
Oh no, I agree, but
I mean,
part of that is also her racial identity, and the fact that she feels
mm-hmm,
like she's being treated differently because she is half white.
mm-hmm.
You know, um, and so yeah, I mean, I think her youthful exuberance, sort of, and youthful cockiness, youthful
Yeah.
arrogance. I mean, there's definitely a lot of that, but I think there's also an element of, um, you know, she feels maybe not necessarily special, or she just she recognizes that she is out of step with
Mm-hmm.
the rest of the community, and she doesn't feel like she's doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
She's like, why can't I dress the way I want to dress? Why do we have to wear, drab colors, and, not dress too fancy, and et cetera, et cetera? Like, why can't we do it another way?
funny because
you know.
they'll kill you.
Well, there's that. Yeah,
There's
there's
that.
that.
But I mean, and it's what I was just thinking about just now. It hadn't occurred to me before. Is reading this as an older person, because the race thing doesn't change.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless the societal perception of race changes, like there is a different, well, I mean, like Obama being the first Black president.
Yeah.
And it's like he's in her place, he's very much, his he has one Black parent and one white parent.
Yeah.
And so different nations and their cultures have different categories of race because it is a social construct. So like, but that typically in your lifetime changes very little, whereas your age changes. And so like I can look back and I'm like, gosh, I remember that feeling of like, but we need to change and we need to do these things. And and now that I'm older, I still have things that I'm just like, this is a better way of doing things, but I'm pushy about it in different ways. So I want to keep my job. And also because like getting sort of labeled as the firebrand can make people defensive and mean that you accomplish less.
Right. It puts more
and that's
roadblocks in your
ultimately
way.
what it needs to be about. If you really want the progress, it's not about you. And when you're young, it's easy to be like, I want to do this thing. And you don't notice that pulls the attention away from the thing and onto you. And so like, I see all of that because that's something that I've experienced and it's changed over time. Whereas I've always been a white lady and that's not going to change. I'm white. That's, and the same thing for her. That's something she's always lived with.
Yeah.
And, radical bacon, exactly. I think that's a big part of it, but also, the fact she hasn't always been 22, like she's grown into that, but her racial identity is something that she's always dealt with. And it's not something that's going to change or go away. And so that's interesting that both of these affect like who she is and why she's going through this crisis. But one of them is something that will change with time inevitably. And the other one is one that will not. And that's just really interesting to me.
Yeah. So she goes
on a rant.
Yeah, because she tells the principal that she wants to leave, and he says, "Well, why? Tell me why you want to leave." And
she goes, "Well, he wants to know. I'm going to tell him." And she does.
She unloads. She's like, "I'm tired of the hypocrisy. I'm tired of everybody watching everybody and picking at each other and looking for weaknesses. Just." I know, but people here don't like me. I don't feel like I think people here doubt my abilities or my commitment to the work. She's just laying it all out. And he says, well, if all of those things are true, if the school really is as you say it is, wouldn't it be better if there were more people like you here who recognize it and are aware of these problems and can counterbalance them? And
yeah. And that was, I made a note of that. He says, what we need is more people like you. And my note is, then hire them.
Right.
Like, that's what I wrote down. Because, like, he's been there. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And she still feels alone.
But he also points out, one of the things that we've been talking about regarding her so far, which is that she's still very young. Because he asks her how old she is, and she says, "I'm 23." And he tells her, I'll just read what he says. He says,
I underlined it.
Yeah, he says, 23. I see. Someday you'll learn that lies, injustice, and hypocrisy are a part of every ordinary community. Most people achieve a sort of protective immunity, a kind of callousness toward them. If they didn't, they couldn't endure. I think there's less of these evils here than in most places. But because we're trying to do such a big thing, to aim so high, the ugly things show more. They irk some of us more. Service is like clean white linen. Even the tiniest speck shows. And then he goes on and keeps talking, and we don't get quotes as to what he's saying, but he really wins her over.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
I circled the word most, because again, she's not like the others.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know, I don't know if he's doing that deliberately, or if that's just, sort of a narrative tick, or what. If the character is actually playing to what he realizes what her insecurities and her desires are, if he's playing to her sense of specialness, or if it's just like the narrator is reinforcing through another character that Helga is special, guys. But yeah, and I also put, his the aura of an elder's wisdom, and I'm just like, we have almost like 10 years on this dude.
Yeah.
You're just like, okay, he's not that old. Come on.
Right.
When you get to be my age, young lady.
When you get to be 35, you'll see.
Well, and also the idea that lies, injustice, and hypocrisy are a part of every ordinary community. Yeah, but that doesn't mean you got to put up with them. You call that out when you see it. You say, that's not okay.
And I love how the way he tries to frame it. He doesn't deny that the things that she's talking about are there, but he says, well, there's probably less of it here than other places, but because we're so awesome, it stands out more. So it might seem like it's,
you are among people who are already special.
Right.
And that just shows how much more special you are, Helga.
Yeah, exactly. But what I enjoy about this, and this is the point we're right at the end of chapter 3 at this point, and this is when I think, I'm going to read the whole book no matter what, but this bit at the end of chapter 3 was when I thought, okay, now you've got me. You know what I mean? Like, now I'm interested in reading more, because Dr. Anderson, who is the principal, he's got her. Like, he's got her. He has talked her into staying. He's given her this speech that we've only just heard. We've only actually just gotten to read the opening part, but we're told that he just keeps going. And she's only half listening, because she's also like, her heart is just full and her head is swimming with the power of his words. And she's so impressed by him and she admires him and she wants to stay for him to continue this work, and to not let him down, because now she's like, she looks up to him and she thinks he's like this great guy and great leader, and and he's got her, right? He's turned her around,
and
then he keeps talking. And it's such a great moment, because he's got her.
Steve, come on.
He's got her. And then he loses her because he doesn't know when to shut up. He says, okay, so here's how it happens. So he came at last to the end of the long speech, only part of which she had heard. You see, you understand, he urged. Yes, oh yes, I do. What we need is more people like you. People with a sense of values and proportion, an appreciation of the rarer things of life. You have something to give which we badly need here in Noxus. You mustn't desert us, Miss Crane.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
You're my only hope.
See, that's where he should have stopped, but it keeps going. She nodded, silent. He had won her. She knew that she would stay. It's an elusive something, he went on. Perhaps I can best explain it by the use of that trite phrase, you're a lady. You have dignity and breeding. At these words, turmoil rose again in Helga Crane. The intricate pattern of the rug which she had been studying escaped her. The shamed feeling which had been her penance evaporated. Only a lacerated pride remained. She took firm hold of the chair arms to still the trembling of her fingers. If you're speaking of family, Dr. Anderson, why, I haven't any. I was born in a Chicago slum. And then he tries to get it back. He realizes that he's messed up, and he's like, "Oh, it doesn't matter. We don't care about that. That's not important." But she's like, "Nope, too late."
No, but not, because he says that doesn't at all matter, Miss Crane. Financial, economic circumstances can't destroy tendencies inherited from good stock.
From good stock. And she's
you
like,
yourself prove that. You are.
Yeah.
There is something special about you. But she's already just caught up in it, concerned with her own angry thoughts, which scurried here and there like trapped rats. Helga missed the import of his words. I mean, the narrator is saying, he's right, Helga. The narrator is coming in and just like judging, like, this is truth, like offering you, it's just so heavy-handed in such a very youthful way.
Yeah. Well, and then the chapter closes with her saying, "The joke's on you, Dr. Anderson. My father was a gambler who deserted my mother, a white immigrant. It is even uncertain that they were married. As I said at first, I don't belong here. I shall be leaving at once this afternoon. Good morning."
And she tosses her head and she walks away.
She makes such a dramatic exit. She does.
She is. I wrote, one of my notes was diva.
Yeah. Well, but at the same time, like, yes, she's, I agree with Radical Bacon. I agree with you that, she is acting her age. She is acting like an impetuous young person. But at the same time, you can see where Dr. Anderson has put his foot in it there, because he literally says, you have all these fine qualities passed down to you from your parents. It's because you come from good stock. And she says, my parents were gamblers, and, like, my father was a gambler and abandoned my mother, and they probably weren't even married. So in other words, if you're saying that I am who I am because of my parents, you're not saying that I'm anything good, because she doesn't have a good image of her parents.
Yeah.
So she's like, well, if I am how I am because of where I come from, then I must not be very good. So his point that he's trying to make completely backfires, because she has this extremely negative opinion of her parents, and it's obviously a point of extreme insecurity for her. But so I mean, I love that turnaround where she comes into the office determined to quit. He turns it around in the space of a couple of minutes just by giving her a rousing speech about how great the school is and how much they need people like her. And she is 100% on board. She's like,
and
I'm staying.
Then he goes and calls her a lady.
He calls her a lady, and he says, we need more people of good stock like you. And she's like,
he's already lost her by that point.
That's true. Calling her a lady.
When he says calling her a lady, she's like, I'm out. I ain't no lady. And that's another thing that gets me, because on Star Wars: The Old Republic, which I played, and that was what got me back into writing fanfic after so long. The character that I really clicked with, that I wrote about the most, was the smuggler player character, and she has a line where she says, "I'm no lady." I just like, I identify with that. Just be like, yeah, I'm no lady. I identify with that so strongly. Like, that ain't me.
Well, and he should have known better, because that's, you could very easily infer that from what she says when he asks her what her problem is.
Yes. It's just,
her problem is
what the story needs at this point.
Yeah. Oh, sure. But I mean, her problem is that she feels disconnected from the society surrounding the school, from the community. She resents having to feeling like she has to be, quote unquote, a lady. Like, that's part of,
and she isn't naturally that way. And she has to play along. And he's like, oh no, you really are this thing that you don't feel like you are. I know you better than you know yourself. And she's like,
yeah,
wow, that's rude.
Okay, I'm out.
Bye.
So yeah, that was what made me say, all right, I'm in now. Like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Because
For me,
it's
it was
just
the voice, and I'm just like, oh, you're so young. Oh, I mean, it's written like an older version of one of my very good students.
yeah.
You know, it's such youthful, exuberant writing, and I mean, it's so. And I guess maybe it's because we don't often see that from women. You
Mhm.
know, there are so many novels from guys about what it's like to be misunderstood as a dude who's just trying to find himself. It's so nice to get that
Have a
in
woman, yeah,
literature from a
yeah,
female writer.
yeah. True,
And
that's a good point.
it's so navel gazing, but because she's female, I'm just like, oh, bless you. I just want to give you a hug.
Yeah.
So,
I
I
want
don't like Holden Caulfield and, all the, grumpy, wangsty guys, but now
cynical,
we have a
yeah,
wangsty girl and I
yeah.
love her.
I wanted to ask you because, and I think that this is, I would guess, I don't know how the novel is going to go because I've never read it before, but I would guess this is something that maybe we'll come back to throughout the book as we continue to read it. But I was curious, if you, because obviously neither one of us can relate to her in terms of her racial experience because we're both about as white as you can get. But did you, because you are a teacher, did you feel any sort of familiarity with her or kinship with her in terms of her experience as a teacher who feels a little bit out of place at the place that she is teaching?
No.
Okay, interesting.
And and here's why. Um, both of my parents were teachers, and now my mom didn't teach full time. She did substitute teach, and she had stopped teaching full time when when they adopted my older brother and sister.
Right.
So she became a stay-at-home parent, and she would occasionally substitute teach, when it fit into her schedule with what was going on with our family and things like that. But I remember my dad going through similar things,
Mhm.
and I remember conversations, not necessarily with my dad, but just being around conversations about teaching, and even in like teacher ed programs, they talk about make sure you stay out of the workroom, don't smile until Christmas and stay out of the teacher workroom because it's so toxic and negative, and teaching is so highly political. And I'm just like, look, every job in which you're working with other people, not your job, Steve, especially when there's any sort of hierarchy,
Yeah.
you know. So I grew up aware of that, and that you have to some degree, you have to go along to get along. I don't know if you've heard, that's a saying.
I have
Like,
heard that saying, yes.
okay, I didn't know if that was just like a my family saying or if it's actually like a saying. Um, but yeah, I remember my dad feeling like sometimes he was on the outs with the, either the current administration or just like the vibe in his department or something like that, or an organization that he was involved in or something like that. I remember that really well. So, I mean, I was kind of prepared for that. And also, given that I moved from the north to the south, the demographics are very similar between central Pennsylvania and northwest Georgia in terms of it's like farmland and factory towns.
Yeah.
So, but the feel of it is different. And also just being an outsider, period. I think there is a similar vibe in small town central Pennsylvania that, oh, you're not from around here.
If people don't know you, yeah, yeah,
Well, sort of like when we welcomed new teachers, they sort of they pointed out ones who either came, this is a Lafayette High School graduate, or, this person graduated from Tryon or Somerville, but we'll let that slide. I mean, because they're from like around here, so they would make mention of that. But they didn't seem to like, they made a big deal about somebody coming home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when somebody was from out of the area, they didn't say, this person is from Wisconsin and they came all the way here to teach. They chose us. They chose to leave their home and come all the way here to be with us. They didn't celebrate that in the same sort of way, and they didn't celebrate it as much, I felt. And so it was interesting to think about what that means for what your teaching demographic is going to be like, and how that probably reflects some of the hiring process, and and what you're looking for in a teaching community. So it's just, so for her, it feels like it came as a surprise. And some of that is because she didn't grow up with teachers. So and for me, it's been a part of my life, like always. You keep the secretaries and the janitors happy, you'll be okay.
That's interesting. Yeah, I sort of thought, I mean, like I said, and I don't know your experience completely because we talk a lot, and you tell me things about your experience, but it hasn't been my experience, and I don't live in Georgia, thank God. Uh,
You live in Maryland.
thank God, thank God. Um, but although the part of Maryland I live in is basically the Georgia of Maryland. So actually, no, that's not fair to Georgia. It's the Mississippi of Maryland is the part that I live
Oh,
in. I don't want to knock Georgia too much. It's the Mississippi of Maryland, but yeah. So I don't know exactly, but as I was reading it, I thought, I wonder if Dana can relate to some of this. Not obviously not all of it, but the idea of being a teacher and feeling out of step or out of place, or feeling like there are things that only you care about, or only you notice, or too few people notice, or too few people are trying to fix, and that there's like a feeling of discouragement. um you know
and again, some of that is because she's young.
sure, sure.
And she's more impatient than I am, I guess. I mean, and I think part of that comes from growing up with parents who are teachers. The idea that you keep your head down and you can get through it. That's
Yeah, yeah,
very much part of it. Very much on the clothes.
yeah,
Well, I was actually talking about that with some of my students, and because we were talking, somehow it had gotten around to dress code, and that it makes a difference. Like the same outfit can be okay with one, that they don't dress code everybody the same. And they're talking about how you look up here, and they said, and you
yeah,
understand that, Miss Cole, if you have the now you wouldn't wear rips in your jeans. I'm like, no, but it doesn't just apply to pants, it also applies to the length of skirts. I said, I've been
yeah.
sent home because I was wearing something that was deemed too short for professional, and I said, we don't even have the 4 inches, it just has to be professional.
Professional,
and,
whatever that
and
means.
that's I said, and I've been sent home to change, so it is what it is.
Yeah,
And I've never gotten upset about it like she seems, like Helga seems,
yeah.
like Nella seems to. I mean, I'm sorry, I mean Helga.
Helga.
Because like I tell, like I say a whole lot, public schools are governed ultimately by the public.
There for the public. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just like, and that's, one of the students said, well, my mom thinks that the dress code is ridiculous too. I said, that's great. That's one adult. And this is not a large community, but we still have thousands of adults here. Yeah. So tell your mom to talk to her friends, her coworkers, her clients, her neighbors, and, spread the word, because when we change the community, when we change the community values, we change the school's values, because that's the way it has to work.
That's how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah. That is,
that's the direction that it flows. Yeah. Yeah.
And, so we had a nice, that was in my SAT ACT prep class. And I'm like, so that was on, like, I think it was like Monday. And I was like, all right, guys, I mean, you're still, this was before we had the announcement. I was like, remember that we're trying to get the math section finished of the curriculum before Labor Day, so that, the week after Labor Day, when we have a short week, we're going to be talking to some, looking into colleges and, doing some review work and looking at where we did well and where we struggled on the math section. We're going to be reflecting back on that. And then we got the announcements. I hope they're keeping up. I did not actually look at their progress today, but that was because I was making phone calls. So, it is what it is.
You have other stuff to do. Your life doesn't revolve around these kids.
Sometimes I think it does, but
to a certain extent, it does.
Kids, so I do think the meatball sub was not as good as the calzone, but I had fries, so there was that.
The fries were good.
Best fries in town.
The impression I got from when you described it to me was that the fries were the primary draw. And
well, they were one of the reasons that I went for the meatball sub instead of the calzone, even though like the fillings were going to be the same, because the calzone is like freshly baked dough, whereas the meatball sub is like the bread is relatively fresh, but it's not like baked then. So so I was thinking about it, but the calzone does not come with the fries. But yeah, and that fresh bread. And I told you I was planning to like have a third of the sub and eat the fries. I ate all of it. Ooh. It's like all gone. I was just like, this is so good.
I'm not saving any of this. Jay has an interesting
point. Mafia town.
Yeah, I think that's very relevant, actually. Jay says, I grew up in rural Australia in a mafia. I didn't even know they had mafia towns in Australia. Shows what I know. Wow. I would have visceral, repulsive reactions from Italians when they found out I was just Aussie and not also Italian. It's kind of like what we're talking about. It's similar to Helga's experience a little bit.
It's not as overt,
Yeah. Well, because I guess there's like, in a situation like that, there's an assumption that everybody fits into the box. Like if it's quote unquote a mafia town, I'm sure most people who live there who are Italian assume that that's the people.
Everybody else is too, right?
Yeah, that's the predominant ethnicity, and they're like, oh yeah. So if someone comes around who isn't, they're like, oh shit, really?
Well, not only that, but like it's not as visible as like, I mean, she, the color of her skin marks her as not having, two black parents.
Yeah.
And it's interesting as well because her mother is a white immigrant.
Right.
And her father's a black man, which is, I mean, kind of unheard of.
Yeah.
So, and that's the quote at the beginning from Langston Hughes was that about my daddy is in the big house and my mama is in a little house.
I'll read it, by the way, because I wanted to mention that because we were talking about Nella Larson being part of the Harlem Renaissance, and of course Langston Hughes is arguably the most famous prominent writer who is associated with the Harlem Renaissance and was a contemporary of hers. And the opening, the epigram at the top of chapter 1 for Quicksand is a quote from Langston Hughes that reads, "My old man died in a fine big house. My ma died in a shack. I wonder where I'm going to die being neither white nor black."
Mhm.
So, and that's what the book's about.
Yep.
So,
Jay, that sounds really interesting. We will have to look into that.
Donald McKay murder. Griffith, New South Wales, Australia. Interesting.
Homework.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna Google that as soon as we get off here. But yeah, so yeah, we're early on yet. It's just the first three chapters, but I am into it. I'm interested. I want to see what happens next. I feel I don't feel quite as strongly about her as you do, but I feel similarly. Like
Mhm.
she is. There is a little bit of like, oh boy, she's so young, but at the same time, also there's a likability to her, and there's it's like, oh, I hope she's okay. Like
Yeah, I'm really getting that, I'm King Triton vibe. Daddy, I love him. I'm not a child anymore. I'm 16 years
yeah,
old.
exactly.
Oh, honey,
Yep.
honey, you have so much life ahead of you.
You're not even a senior.
Which is hilarious because you just shot your video about an old guy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. My video for Monday about yeah, well, not all about an old guy, but an old
Well,
guy
but
was
you
the
you
starting
also
point.
sort of look at it from that lens.
That's true. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
and we were talking about stages of life and how
Yeah.
that affects the way you look at the world around you.
Good
And
point. Yeah, good
yeah,
point. Yeah.
I'm making connections
It's
because
almost
it's the
like you're
first time I read it.
it's almost like you're some kind of teacher.
Well, you were saying that because it's the first time you've read it.
That's true. Yes.
Now,
Yes.
Jay, and you say that you really, really, you no,
Really relate.
actually, really relate. I saw that and it came in my brain as really, really relate, but it's actually really relate to Helga. So, if it's not because of age, in what way do you relate to Helga? So,
Yeah,
do you
please.
relate to Helga?
Do I relate to Helga? A little bit. I mean, I don't feel that I relate to her that strongly, but
You get
I
tired of people's nonsense?
well, I relate to that. I relate in the sense of feeling like of feeling out of step with the people around me. I don't feel that way now because now the people that I choose to associate with are people. It's there. I mean, the people that I spend time with, either in person or virtually, are it's 100% people that I've chosen to spend my time with. Like because I work for myself, and I don't have to, and I'm out of school, and I don't have to go to a workplace where I'm surrounded by other people whose company I wouldn't necessarily choose. I don't
When you
have
go to
that.
the grocery store, you can mostly ignore people.
Yeah, like
You use the self checkout, don't you?
every single time. Yes. Why wouldn't I?
One less person you got to talk to. You don't have to worry about the people behind
Why
you
wouldn't
because they
I?
stay back behind the line, folks.
Exactly. So, but yeah, I can relate. I remember, you and I have talked about this, and you know this. I mean, the town I grew up in has a population of 400 people. I mean, it's a really, really small town. My graduating high school class was less than 100 people, and it was a very sort of close knit small town community, very conservative, 100% white. Um, and I was not that radical, but
Yet.
I mean, I was interested in writing, and I was interested in movies, and I was interested in I except for baseball, I wasn't all that into sports, and I never played sports in any organized way. I never played sports in high school. I never played little league or anything like that. um I was more like a creatively minded kind of artsy kid, and there just weren't very many of us. And there were times when I felt out of place. And thankfully, not to the degree that it was like a problem. Like I never felt depressed. I was never really, bullied or ostracized or anything as a kid. But, there were times when I felt like I didn't really belong or I didn't really fit in. Not to the degree that Helga feels, but I can relate to that. I know I have some sense of what that feels like. And I have some sense of what it feels like to, again, thankfully not my experience right now, but in at various times in my life of having to be in a room with people that you have nothing in common with, that you don't necessarily like, that in some cases you may actively dislike, but for whatever reason you just have to be there, and the resentment that can build up inside of you because of that.
Yeah.
I know what that feels like. So I relate to her on that basis.
Yeah. That's all I got.
Yeah. So for next time, for 2 weeks from now, we will read chapters 4, 5, and 6.
Yes, sir.
That's right,
Yes,
because it's my
teacher.
book. It's my book, and I'm in charge.
Keep telling yourself that, Buster.
I'm gonna enjoy it while it lasts.
I'm
Um,
gonna think of like the most girlyish thing that I can possibly inflict on you for the next one.
I can take it.
That's true.
I'm man enough to take it. I come on.
You do enjoy the self-flagellation.
Well, that's that's right. So yeah, we'll read the next 3 chapters for next time, and of course, coming up on Wednesday, we will be back to watching Deep Space Nine.
Woohoo!
We will watch episode 2 of season 2, which is called The Circle, and then a week from tonight, I will be back for another Ask Away. Just flying solo for that one, just me.
Well, I mean, you and all of your patrons who
All
send
of
you
the questions
questions.
and such, yes, indeed. But yeah,
And a lovely full chat of people
indeed.
discussing things and
Hopefully,
poking at
including
you
you.
and possibly sending you money.
That would be so great if they would send me money.
Speaking of sending money, nice little segue there.
Look at
Don't
that.
forget about the charity links, which are in a document curated by a friend of ours.
Yes.
And so there are always people in our life who could use some help. And so that document keeps track of who needs some help. And so there are PayPal links and other sorts of donation links there. And if you have the opportunity, help somebody out.
Could not have said it any better myself. And yeah, that is linked in the description. Also, of course, Dana, you have your own YouTube channel.
Yes. Leave me
YouTube.com/Dana Coldares.
comments.
Yes, watch Dana's wonderful videos. Leave her comments. Really makes her day.
It really does.
I know.
I
Wow.
got like 4 comments today. It was awesome.
I wasn't even going for that, but Jay's like, I'll give you some money. Thank you, Jay, with a super chat that says Saturday morning pancakes and book club. Great start to the weekend for me. Wow, you're on the other side of the international date line. It's Saturday morning.
So
Yes.
Jay, if you're not already done with all the pancakes, here's what I suggest. While they're still warm, slather butter on them.
Ooh,
and then sprinkle granulated sugar.
Oh.
And then you put another pancake on top of that. So it's like a sugar and butter pancake sandwich.
Oh.
It's so good. The butter kind of melts the sugar just a little bit, but it stays crunchy.
Oh,
that's so ridiculously
so good.
I also really like maple syrup on my pancakes and waffles.
I think because it's Saturday morning for you, Jay. It's still Friday night for us. I think when it gets to be Saturday, I think when it gets to be Saturday morning around here, I might have to order some pancakes for breakfast because, goddamn. Anyway, but thank you very much for the super chat.
You could save the pancakes for Sunday, since tomorrow is cheat day.
That's well. I'll get like some bacon or sausage or something with them too.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Go to IHOP or Denny's or something like that.
Yeah, or just Grubhub them from like a local place.
Yeah.
Bring the pancakes to me, folks. Yes, bring me the pancakes. Bring them to my home. Leave them on the porch.
I'm going to the library tomorrow. Looking forward to it.
They serve pancakes at the library?
Sometimes I'm sure they do, actually. libraries are awesome.
They have pancake breakfast.
But
Yeah, no,
no,
your
I'm going
library
to like
apparently has like a
because
cafe or something. Like,
well, that's at the one near where
oh,
I
that's the
work.
one near your school. Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
it's one near my school. This one doesn't have that. It does have I do think they have coffee sometimes. So I got this one and I was done with this one, but I didn't have it with me when I went to pick up this one. So I'm gonna have to drop that off since I'm done with it. And there's a yoga class that I'm gonna do at the library. So yay.
Yoga, yoga, yoga.
I think maybe they're doing it every other week. I need to double check. So
you should double check before you show up expecting to do some yoga, and just in case.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna show up to, put the book back anyhow. And I mean, if I show up expecting to do yoga and there's no yoga, I just happen to be wearing comfy yoga clothes. That's not a loss.
I suppose it wouldn't be, would it?
Yep. They're like pajamas.
And you do like pajamas.
I do. I love pajamas. That is the one thing that I wish would have really taken more hold in the professional world. President Biden, if you really want to be a leader, lead us in pajamas.
Oh man, next time he holds like a press conference, he should come out wearing some classic like old man pajamas.
Yeah,
with like the white piping along the edges and like the breast pocket,
some nice, soft, lush flannel.
There you go. There, come on. Hey, lead us, President Biden.
Exactly.
We need a leader. We are crying out for leadership.
We are crying out for pajamas.
We're crying out for pajamas.
Yeah.
Pajamas. You say pajamas. You don't say pajamas. You say pajamas.
No, because it's more. I normally would say pajamas.
Yeah,
but
me too.
It's more fun to say pajamas.
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 Pajamas. Pajamas.
Anyway,
all right, well, I'm ready to go now that we've talked about food and pajamas. I am ready to change into pajamas and have some dinner.
There you go.
Heck yeah!
I was just gonna say
fuzzy socks and everything.
I was gonna say I think we're riffing on pajamas/pajamas. I think we've reached the natural endpoint of the stream. So, thanks for watching, everybody. Thank you
so much for choosing this book, Steve. I'm enjoying it so far, and I'm enjoying talking about it with you.
And
with our chat.
Yes, indeed. I'm glad you're enjoying it so far. I'm enjoying it too. So yeah, I can't wait to talk about the next 3 chapters with you in a couple weeks. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good night. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.